Blue and red lights washed over my pasture like a cheap disco, and for a second I thought I was dreaming. There were kids stumbling through waist-high grass, a DJ table parked on my hay trailer, and the smell of lighter fluid chasing fireworks that weren't supposed to be anywhere near this county. Then I heard her sharp voice cutting through the music. "It's HOA property tonight, pal." And I knew exactly whose party I'd just walked into on land my grandfather swore would never belong to anyone but our family. My name's Wade. I'm not a lawyer, and I'm not the kind of guy who records every little thing, but I learned the value of receipts when the first houses from Pinecrest Estates started climbing the hill next door. Grandpa had these fence lines surveyed twice, once when he bought in the late 70s, again when the county paved the road, and when the developer came sniffing around trying to pull my family into the HOA for cohesion. Grandpa laughed, tipped his hat, and pointed to the no trespassing signs like they were commandments. When he passed and left it all to me, I promised I'd run the place simple: cows, pasture, quiet. I put up fresh markers, set a couple of trail cams because coyotes had been bold lately, and I minded my own business. The HOA president over there, her name is Lynette, does not mind her own business. She's the kind of person who turns a suggestion box into a weapon. In Pinecrest, she polices garage paint color, the angle of porch flags, the sound of wind chimes after 8 p.m. I heard rumors how she fined a guy for using the wrong mulch, how she measured a neighbor's grass with a ruler and left the citation on his windshield like some kind of parking ticket. I laughed those stories off until Lynette showed up at my fence the first time, grinning the way people do when they think they've already won. "Mr. Holt," she said, chin tilted, "Pinecrest would benefit from a partnership. Shared maintenance, safer events, community standards. Your land would be perfect for seasonal festivals." "It's not a park," I told her. "It's pasture, and it's not for rent." She came back twice more, each time with a different angle: liability insurance, security, volunteer hours, like she'd pulled talking points off a website. I kept saying no, and each time she left a little more brittle. I didn't know it then, but brittle people snap loud. The night it all popped off, I was at my small apartment in town. Half the week I stay there because my remote job is easier with good internet and fewer rooster alarms. My phone buzzed at 12:17 a.m. with a motion alert. Another at 12:18. When the third ping hit, I opened the app and saw headlights bouncing across my field like frogs. A trail cam caught a truck backing up to my gate. A kid in a neon hoodie shimmied over the top, popped the chain, and let a caravan roll in like they'd been planning it. I threw on boots, grabbed my keys, and muttered something my grandpa wouldn't be proud of. "It's 20 minutes from town if you hit the lights right." I didn't bother with the radio. I just watched those notifications stack: laughter, people shaping shadows into shapes of tents, a thin column of sparks from a bottle rocket that made me think of dry hay and insurance deductibles. By the time I crested my driveway, the bass line from whatever song they were playing rattled the metal letters on my mailbox. What I remember first is the audacity. There's my trailer, usually full of feed, now draped with a banner someone ripped off their own garage: Pinecrest After Party, and a DJ in sunglasses like the sun's alive at midnight. Coolers sinking into the grass. A propane grill licking flames like it's starving. The air had that sweet sour edge you get when cheap beer hits hot dust. And Lynette, queen of the cul-de-sac, stood center stage with a whistle around her neck like a referee, pointing people where to park. "You're trespassing," I said, loud enough to cut through a chorus. "Shut it down." She turned slow, smile lacquered on. "Community event," she sang back, and a few kids cheered like she'd scored a point. "We outgrew the clubhouse. And technically your boundary is disputed." "It isn't." I pointed at the steel corner post I'd set that spring. "You moved my chain." Lynette shrugged, one shoulder. "Temporary accommodation. You should thank me. This could be your best chance at integrating." There was a moment there where the old meth one who hates confrontation wanted to beg or bargain, but something in me clicked to a steadier place. I pulled out my phone and started a slow pan from the gate to the grill, catching the fireworks box with the county warning on the side. The kids I knew couldn't be 21 nursing tall boys. The DJ's extension cord snaked through dry grass like fuses. Lynette stepped into frame and tried to block the shot with her palm. "Don't be dramatic," she hissed. "We'll be gone in an hour. You should be gone now." She leaned close enough I could smell the lemon pepper marinade. "You're not in our HOA, but you should know how we do things. With or without you." The first firework whooshed up and popped too low, raining gold on my fence line, and that sound flipped a switch for me. I backed away, called the non-emergency number because I didn't want a full circus unless I had to, and gave the dispatcher a quick summary. Trespassing, fireworks ban, underage drinking, 124, Garver Road, pasture on the south side. She asked me to stay clear, keep filming if safe, and let officers handle the crowd. I did exactly that. I stepped onto the gravel apron at the edge of my field me side, my right to stand in. I filmed. You learn how adults behave when the blue lights paint a scene. The DJ killed the track like he owed the speaker company money. A handful of kids power walked toward the open gate, trying to look sober. Lynette did the opposite, stiffened, straightened the whistle like it was a badge, and marched at the first officer with a story already spinning. "Officer," she said, palms out like a politician. "We're wrapping up a sanctioned neighborhood event. The homeowner here," she motioned toward me with that smile again, "is agitated and may escalate. We've had issues." The officer gave me a look that said, "Give me something better than adjectives." So I did. Slow motion shot of the kids sliding the chain off my post. The timestamp. A wide shot of the "No Trespassing" plaque I'd mounted at eye level. The fireworks warning label. A quick note that the county had issued a ban after a grass fire last month. I kept my voice level. "This is private property." I asked them to leave. They refused. Another officer was talking to a boy whose hands were shaking. He pointed across the crowd, straight at Lynette. The officer's chin lifted, and he walked that way with a kind of measured patience that makes grown people tell the truth. Lynette's son didn't know his name, then stared at the dirt like he wanted it to swallow him. "Ma'am," the officer said, "did you unlock that gate?" "I did not," Lynette said without blinking. Her son's voice was soft, but it traveled. "Mom, you gave me the code." You could feel the air get thinner. The people who'd been ready to argue shifted their weight. The ones who'd been quiet kept their eyes down. Lynette tried to pivot, tried to turn herself into the hero of cleanup. "We've been trying to disperse. That's what the whistle is for." The officer's eyebrow went up. "And the fireworks?" She glanced at the empty box, then at me. "I told them not to." I scrolled my phone and found the clip I didn't want to find. Lynette laughing as two teenagers argued over who got to light the next one, her voice clear. "Last one. Then I want everyone toward the music." When I played it back for the officer, he didn't smile. He just nodded, thanked me, and asked me to hang tight. The pivot point, for me, wasn't the tickets they wrote or the way the crowd shrank the second the cruiser doors opened. It was when the officer asked Lynette to step aside, spoke into his shoulder mic, and then turned to her son again. "Who brought the alcohol, son?" His eyes glassed over. "It was at our house. Like half of it. Mom said it'd be easier." Lynette whispered his name like a curse. He flinched. For a second, I remembered being 16 and dumb and wanting adults to be better. I didn't hate that kid. I hated that he'd been positioned like a chess piece in a game he didn't even like. When it all wound down, it looked quiet from the road. On my side, the damage was small, some ruts, a singed patch near the fence, a stray flip-flop that made me laugh in spite of everything. The officers asked if I wanted to press charges. I told them I wanted a report, I wanted trespass notices issued, and I wanted the HOA to stop pretending my land was theirs any time it was convenient. They said they'd be filing a handful of citations: fireworks, noise, furnishing to minors, criminal trespass for whoever opened the gate, and they asked me to email the videos first thing in the morning. I said I'd send them before sunrise. Word travels faster than wildfire in neighborhoods built tight. By breakfast, I got a text from a guy I barely knew, Trent, 2 houses in from the corner, who said, "You're not the bad guy here, man. Most of us hate this stuff." He told me about the time Lynette wrote up a nurse who works nights because her porch light disrespected quiet hours. He told me the board had slipped quiet rules across the line from safety into theater, and a lot of people were done clapping. I didn't ask for that gossip, but I filed it away because it tells you what kind of fuel a spark can land on. Lynette came to my fence that afternoon. No whistle, a hat pulled low. There's a version of the story where she apologized and said she lost the plot and asked to make it right. This is not that version. "You really had to call the police," she said, each word clipped. "You couldn't have handled it like a neighbor?" "I did handle it like a neighbor," I said. "I asked you to leave. You told me my land was yours." "That isn't what I said." I looked at the black curl in the grass where the rocket had kissed earth. "I have it on video." She took a breath that inflated her whole history every time someone told her no. Every time, she bulldozed anyway. I'm trying to build community. You don't build community by breaking in, I said. You don't build it by handing beer to kids and calling it leadership. She flinched at that, and the hat brim trembled. They're older than they look. You don't know. Some of them go to the same high school I did. I know. For a heartbeat. I thought she might let it sink, might pivot into a person again. Then she pulled the brim lower, muttered, "You'll regret making enemies," and walked away like the path itself owed her obedience. I turned the sprinkler on that patch of singe and let the water spit where the sparks had tried to write their name. The HOA board met a week later. I wouldn't have gone, but the officer suggested I explain my side before rumors hardened into concrete. They shoved folding chairs into the clubhouse meeting room, and Lynette sat at the front beside a coffee urn, posture perfect. I kept it simple. My grandpa's deed, the survey, the gate, the video, the ban, the bottles. I finished with a sentence that surprised me as much as it did them. I don't want your neighborhood hurt. I want my boundary respected. That's it. A man in a ball-capped Trent cleared his throat. We're all embarrassed, he said to the room, not just to me. This isn't what we signed up for. Another woman told a story about being fined while planning her husband's chemo schedule because she left 2 bags of mulch in view for 48 hours. Someone else talked about Christmas lights and the tape measure, about the way rules can make you feel small in your own yard. It spilled like that for a while, not a mob, not cruel, just tired citizens naming the thing they pretended not to see. When Lynette finally spoke, she did it with a smile that could have been a shield. It's unfortunate we're airing grievances, she said. But the community expects standards. The community expects honesty, Trent said. You opened a neighbor's gate. Her chin notched up. I delegated. If an overzealous teenager, it was your code, I said flat. And your coolers. The board voted that night to censure HOA, word that looks delicate on paper but feels heavy when it lands. She kept her title for a month, but it was like a crown with loose screws, always slipping. Volunteers stopped volunteering. People skipped meetings. When she tried to push a new rule about street parking, the room stayed quiet until one woman said, very gently, "No." Lynette resigned in a letter that used the phrase personal reasons 3 times and hostile environment twice. A for sale sign appeared in her yard before winter. None of that felt like victory to me. Victory, if you can call it that, was a quiet Saturday 2 months later when I walked the fence with a fresh spool of chain, cows too lazy to be nosy, the kind of sky that makes you double-check if you were ever mad in the first place. I fixed the post where the truck had bumped it. I trimmed a limb that leaned too far, and I hung a simple sign I'd had made at the hardware store, "Private pasture, respect boundaries." A neighbor from Pine Crest waved from the road and asked if he could buy some eggs. I told him I only did beef and milk, but I pointed him toward the stand by the highway. We chatted about rain forecasts. It felt normal, like the land had exhaled. I won't pretend I'm cured of annoyance. Every time I see a party balloon drifting from that direction, my shoulders tighten. I still send a link to the police report when someone asks, "Didn't you overreact?" But I sleep easier now, not because someone got punished, but because the line is back where it belongs. You have to name a line, mark it, defend it with a steady voice and a camera if you have to. Not everything has to be a war. Sometimes it's just a fence and a polite no said often enough that it finally sticks. If you stuck with me this far, I'm curious how you see it. Was I right to call? Or should neighbors handle neighbors even when the neighbor brings 100 strangers and a box of fireworks to your pasture at midnight? Do HOAs help keep a place beautiful? Or do they just hand power to whoever craves it most? Drop your honest take. Tell me where you draw the line on community versus control and what you'd have done when the whistle blew on your land.